Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
The information contained within this podcast does not consider your personal circumstances and is of a general nature only. You should not act on it without first obtaining professional financial advice specific to your circumstances.
Paul Atherton is an ex-Wall Street advisor on a mission to help young people win back their financial power, wealth and security. He does this by helping them understand the hidden world of finance, risk and investments, helps them figure out how it impacts them, and to seize the opportunities to make it work to their advantage. This is Paul Street Journal. I'm here with Paul this morning. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm really well, Tim. How are you?
Very well. Now, I've just had quite a busy Christmas and spent quite a lot of money on my Christmas presents, and it's just really alerted me to the fact that I should be budgeting better throughout the year to cope with those kinds of things. How can I do that?
Yes, Tim. Budgeting, the worst word in the English language. I swear to God, nobody likes to budget, but we all kind of know we have to. I think budget and diet might be the other thing that we don't want to do. So to keep it simple, I think is the key to budgeting, and I think one of the things that stops us doing it is where it's a little bit overwhelming. So my process that I take my clients and my advice is to what I call declutter, de-risk and build. And the reason for doing that is that your decluttering process just simplifies your life and makes it easier. I think we try and take on the new year, we try and add on too much, and I say no, we try and subtract, make your life simpler, remove things. So a real nice, simple thought process for doing a budget is to separate all of your spending into two simple piles. So pile A is all the bills, all the spending that you have to do. Now, this may seem very simple, but there are a lot of areas that you may think are have-tos, and they may not quite be. So what are have-tos? You have to pay your utility bills, you have to pay your electricity bills, you have to pay your rent, or you have to pay your mortgage. You have to do these type of things that, where if you don't, somebody will turn up to your door or turn off your electricity or do something nasty. Some areas that may be on the borderline of that, so in theory, I suppose you don't need a mobile phone. But in reality, in the modern world, you kind of do. So I'm quite happy for that to be on the have to list. And then very simply, the other pile is everything else. So if it is not a have to, then by definition, it's a nice to list. And the have tos you kind of leave alone. That's there are things you can do in the have to list, but it's the nice to list that we need to focus in on. Now, again, in the nice to list, we want to separate those into two piles. So look at your nice tos and start separating those into two categories. One's nice tos that make you happy, and ones that actually add no value to your life or make you unhappy. And you kill those immediately. If they are not adding value to your life, if they're not making you happy, then that's a very bad spend. I think a lot of advisors say cut back on all the nice tos, very one broad brushstroke. And of course that will help you with your budget, but it won't make you happy. And if you're really chipping away at your happiness factor, you're going to ruin your budget. So you've separated into two piles. You've got your nice tos and your have tos, and your nice tos you're separated into separate piles, the happiness and the non-happiness. And I guarantee you, Tim, when you go through those lists, you're going to find spends that you didn't even know you had. So my wife and I go through this process once a year. We call it like spring cleaning. And we quite literally do it around spring. We quickly hack together a budget, get the nice to lists, and we find every single time something we're spending money on that we just signed up through the year that we didn't know, and we weren't. It's one of those things. There are lots of ways that seem cheap at the start, just I'll sign on to this app or this regular payments, and then you just forget. Life's complex, life's busy, and that's the time you should eliminate that. And effortlessly, you've just created spare space in your budget. And it hasn't cost you a thing. It hasn't cost you any time. It hasn't cost you happiness factors. You haven't budgeted. Nobody's told you to stop those lattes if that's in fact what you enjoy. So, look at that. And then, once you've been ruthless on the unhappiness list, take another look at the have-tos. And then you can start really drilling down on that. And areas for that might be your utilities. So you've got to spend money on utilities, but change provider or go to them and tell them that you're going to change provider. Another good way is just set up direct debits wherever you can. Simplify direct, get direct payments. Try and go paperless. It's a very, very easy and simple way of standardizing your payment system. And most utility providers and service providers will give you a discount for doing direct debit.
Some of them even charge extra.
Yeah, well then for those type of people, stay away.
Yeah.
I immediately fire people for doing that. And I will tell them, I'm paying direct debit, not messing up the environment, and you're charging me extra, I'm moving. There is an awesome way to automate in cases where providers won't let you. You can automate without their permission. You can go to services such as commonly PayPal and have that automatically paid. And the great thing about PayPal is it will tell you how you're spending your money. So it'll give you a nice spectrum of bills and where you're allocating your hard-earned cash. So I think that's awesome. You'll find a lot of banks do this as well. You can set up automated payments irrespective of direct debit. And potentially that's a better idea because it puts the control back into your hands. I think the risk of going direct debit with providers is you forget about it. So I do always put a little bit of health risk to the direct debit. But automating payments is a fantastic way to make your life simpler. It's a new electronic world. Take advantage of it. And I guess one other area which is fantastic and probably one of the biggest levers you can do is consolidating debt. And we've spoken about this a lot, Tim, but focus in on your debt payments where you're making those interest payments to credit cards and store cards and personal loans and mortgages. If you have a mortgage, you will be able to consolidate debt, almost certainly, and to a lower rate. If you don't have a mortgage and you just have a whole series of credit card debts, really focus some energy and time to eliminate your first one of your credit cards, the one with the least outstanding, and just really spend the time to focus to remove that. And you'll find, again, that's about de-risking, it's about decluttering, it's about simplifying your life. And that's, I think, a great goal for 2018 is to declutter, de-risk, and build for the future.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Thank you for joining me, Paul. I feel much the wiser.
Great, Tim. Cheers.
Paul Street Journal.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.